The bedroom in Malibu smelled like antiseptic and quiet panic, the kind of room where hope had already learned to whisper. Michael Landon lay propped against pillows, 54 years old and shrinking fast, 40 pounds gone, his famous smile erased by the hollow stare of a man measuring life in days instead of years. Pancreatic cancer had stripped him down to fear and bone. His wife Cindy sat beside the bed, gripping his hand too tightly, trying to be strong and failing in small, human ways. His longtime friend and producer Kent McCrae stood near the window, out of words, out of answers. Everyone in the room knew the truth, and no one knew how to say it without breaking him. Death felt present, not dramatic, not loud, just patient. Then a car pulled into the driveway. Cindy glanced out the window and froze. "It's Dean Martin." Michael's eyes flickered with confusion. Dean Martin. Why would Dean Martin be here? They weren't close. They'd crossed paths once, years earlier. A show, a handshake, nothing more. But Dean had heard. Heard Michael was sick. Heard he was scared. And Dean understood fear like that. He understood it from burying his son, from watching friends disappear one by one, from learning that death doesn't respond to optimism or denial. So he came. Dean walked into the bedroom quietly. No entourage, no performance. Just the man who had seen too much loss to be afraid of it anymore. The air changed the moment he sat down. Not because he was famous, but because he wasn't pretending. He looked at Michael for a long moment, really looked at him, then spoke softly, without pity, without false hope. Whatever he said made Cindy break into tears. It made Kent excuse himself because he couldn't handle the weight of it. And it made Michael Landon do something he hadn't done in months. He stopped being afraid. Weeks earlier, on April 5th, 1991, Michael had stood in front of cameras at his home and told America the truth. Inoperable. Terminal. Months at best. He spoke calmly, professionally. The same man who had spent 9 years as America's moral compass on Little House on the Prairie. The father who always knew the lesson, always had the answer. He said he would fight. He said he was hopeful. But when the cameras left, the performance collapsed. Cindy found him on the bathroom floor, sobbing, shaking, stripped of every role he day of air played. "I'm dying," he told her. "I'm 54, and I'm dying. I don't know how to do this." She held him, but love doesn't come with instructions for the end. People came after that. Hollywood friends, co-stars, well-meaning visitors, with flowers and prayers and words that sounded comforting but rang hollow. "You're strong. You'll beat this." Michael listened and nodded, but he knew the truth. This wasn't a fight you won. This was a clock. And the waiting was worse than the pain. Nights became endless. He lay awake, imagining nothingness, imagining his children growing up without him, imagining Cindy alone, imagining the moment everything would stop. Fear settled into his bones and made every breath heavier. By late May, he rarely left the bedroom. Not because he couldn't walk, but because he was terrified, as if leaving the room might let death catch him sooner. Kent McCrae came almost every day, sat with him, tried to talk about old episodes, old laughs, old victories. Michael couldn't focus. "I can't stop thinking about it," he whispered. "Every second. How much time? How it ends." Kent had no answers. He stayed anyway. That afternoon, the phone rang. Cindy answered, and an hour later, Dean Martin walked into the room and did something no doctor, no friend, no amount of optimism had been able to do. He didn't try to save Michael. He didn't lie to him. He didn't tell him to be brave or strong or hopeful. He met him exactly where he was, looked death in the eye with him, and showed him that fear didn't have to be the last thing he felt. For the first time in 3 months, Michael Landon exhaled. And in that moment, the man who had spent his life comforting millions finally found someone who knew how to comfort him. Kent came back into the room, looking unsettled, almost confused. "Dean Martin is downstairs," he said quietly. He wants to know if he can come up. Michael frowned, genuinely puzzled. Dean Martin. He barely knew the man. One handshake years ago, a quick exchange on a variety show. Nothing that justified a visit like this. Why would he come here? Michael asked. Kent shrugged. Maybe he heard you were sick. Michael hesitated. I don't want people seeing me like this. But Cindy was already moving. She'd heard something in Dean's voice on the phone, something calm and unforced, and she trusted it without knowing why. When Dean Martin walked into that bedroom, the room didn't explode with emotion. It didn't turn dramatic. It changed in a quieter way, like someone had cracked open a window in a space that had been sealed shut for weeks. Dean was 73, thinner than Michael remembered. His hair gray, his movements slower, but his eyes were sharp and gentle. He didn't scan the room nervously. He didn't brace himself. He looked at Michael the way people rarely did anymore. Without pity, without fear, without that careful distance people keep from the dying. He looked at him with recognition. .ol quotes. Hello, Michael Diaz said softly, his voice raspy but steady. Mind if I sit? Michael nodded, still unsure what was happening. Dean pulled a chair close to the bed, not across the room, not at arm's length, but right there where Michael couldn't hide behind politeness or performance. How you doing? Dean asked. Michael let out a bitter laugh. How do you think? I'm dying! Dean nodded once. Yeah. I heard. That's why I came. Michael stared at him. Why? We barely know each other. Dean was quiet for a moment, then said simply, because I know what it's like. What's it like? To be scared of dying. Something cracked inside Michael, not because of the words, but because Dean wasn't trying to soften them. He wasn't offering courage or faith or slogans. He was just telling the truth. Are you scared of dying? Michael asked. Dean didn't hesitate. Yeah. Every day, ever since I was young enough to understand it was coming for all of us. Michael pushed himself up slightly, stunned. You, Dean Martin, you're not scared of anything. Dean smiled. That familiar half-smile. That's the act kid. The drunk who doesn't care. Truth is, I care about everything. And I'm terrified of all of it, especially dying. Cindy stood near the door, tears welling up. This was what Michael had needed all along. Not hope, not denial, someone willing to sit in the fear with him instead of trying to erase it. What are you scared of? Michael asked quietly. Dean leaned back, thinking, not existing anymore. Leaving people behind. The moment itself. That second, when you go from being alive to not being anything, do you feel it? Do you know it's happening? Michael nodded. Those are my questions too. Dean met his eyes. I don't have answers. Nobody does this. But I've had to think about it. Lost too many people not to. My son, Michael said softly. He knew about Dean Paul Martin, the crash in 1987. Dean's face tightened just enough to notice. Yeah, my boy. My parents, friends, Sammy Davis Jr. had died the year before. Cancer. Did you see him at the end? Michael asked. Dean nodded. Yeah? And I didn't know how to help him. Didn't know what to say. Just sat there feeling useless. Instead of fear, Michael felt relief. Not because Dean had answers, but because he admitted he didn't. Because he'd been in this exact place before. Did it help? Michael asked. Sammy said it did, Dean replied. Said having someone there who wasn't trying to fix him made it easier. Not easy. Easier. Michael swallowed. Everyone who comes in here tells me I'm strong, that I'll beat this, that I need to stay positive. Dean, nada. Yeah, that's for them, Not for you. They can't handle the truth, so they cover it with optimism. It makes me feel alone, Michael said. You're not, Dean replied. We all know how bad it is. We just don't say it out loud. Then say it, Michael challenged. Say what you think is going to happen. Dean held his gaze. You're probably going to die soon. It's going to hurt the people who love you. And when it's over, you'll be gone. And the world will keep moving without you. Cindy gasped. Kent shifted, ready to stop it. But Michael raised his hand. No. Keep going. Dean continued calmly. That's terrifying because everything in us is built to survive, to fight. And dying isn't fighting. It's surrender. It's letting go of your body, your thoughts, your identity, everything that makes you you. And we don't know what comes next. Michael's eyes filled with tears, not from fear this time, but relief. Someone had finally said it. So what do? Michael asked. Dean leaned forward. You stop running from it. You stop pretending he not scared. You let yourself be scared. And you don't do it alone. Michael's voice broke. I don't want to disappear. Din nada. None avos do. But you won't disappear the way you think. The love you gave, the people you shaped, the moments you mattered, that doesn't go anywhere. You don't get erased. You get remembered. Michael closed his eyes, breathing slowing for the first time in weeks. The fear didn't vanish, but it loosened its grip. After a long silence, Michael whispered, I'm still scared. Dean reached out and rested his hand on Michael's arm. Yeah, me too. But you don't have to face it by yourself. Kent quietly left the room. Cindy sat on the edge of the bed, crying openly now. Landon, who had spent his life teaching America how to face hardship, finally learned the hardest lesson of all. That courage isn't pretending he not afraid. It's letting someone sit beside you while you are. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something. But the truth is, nobody knows. And that not knowing is the worst part of all. Michael's eyes filled as he nodded slowly. Yes, that's it. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. Dean leaned forward, his voice low and steady. I know. And I'm going to tell you something that might not make you feel better, but it's the only honest thing I have. Michael listened closely. We're all dying, Michael. Every single one of us. The only difference is, your timeline. The rest of us pretend we don't have one, but we do. I could die tomorrow. Cindy could. Kent could one. We're all walking toward the same door. You're just closer to it, and you can see it clearly while the rest of us look away. Michael swallowed. Does that make it easier? Dean shook his head. No, but it makes it real, and real is better than pretending. Michael wiped his face, exhausted. I'm so tired of pretending, of acting brave, of telling everyone I'm okay when I'm not. Then don't, Dean said simply. Stop pretending. You're dying. It's unfair. It's terrifying. And you don't have to perform courage for anyone. Michael hesitated. But people expect it. Dean cut him off gently but firmly. You don't owe anyone your strength. You don't owe anyone a brave face. The only thing you owe yourself is honesty. And the honest truth is, you're terrified, so let yourself be terrified. Cindy was crying openly now, but it wasn't despair. It was relief. Michael looked lighter, like something heavy had finally been set down. You're right, he said quietly. I am terrified, and I'm done pretending I'm not. Dean nodded. Good. That's the beginning. Beginning of what? Of acceptance. You can't accept something you refuse to admit. Michael took a slow breath. Okay, I admit it. I'm dying. and I'm scared. What comes next? Dean smiled softly. Nothing comes next. That's it. You say it out loud. You feel it. And you stop fighting the fear. Dois it go away, Michael asked. No, Dean sighed. But you stop drowning in it. You learn how to float. Michael studied him. How do you know all this? Dean was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, because I've been preparing for death since I was 17. I've loved people knowing I'd lose them. I've enjoyed moments knowing they would end. It made life harder, but it made it honest. No illusions, new surprises, just truth. They sat together in silence. Cindy joined them. Kent came back into the room. No one tried to fix anything. No one filled the space with words. They were just there, together, breathing. After a while, Dean spoke again. Want to know what I think happens when we die? Michael looked up. Please. Dean chose his words carefully. I think the fear is worse than the thing itself. I think we spend so much time being afraid of death that we forget we're still alive. And when it finally comes, it's probably quieter than we imagine. Not violent. Not dramatic. Just a transition like falling asleep. Michael nodded slowly. Do you really believe that? Dean shrugged. I want to, and sometimes wanting to believe something is enough. Michael looked at him, gratitude filling his voice. Thank you. For what? For not lying to me. For not telling me everything would be okay. For sitting here and being scared with me. Dean stood carefully, his body stiff with age. I should let you rest. Michael reached out and took his hand. Will you come back? Dean met his eyes. If you want me to. I do, Michael said. I really do. Dean squeezed his hand. Then I will. When Dean left, the room felt different. Not healed. Not healed. Not fixed. But breathable. Cindy looked at Michael. Ah, you okay? Michael smiled, genuinely, for the first time in weeks. Yeah, I think I am, Kent asked softly. What did he do? Michael shook his head. Nothing. He just told me the truth and let me be afraid. That's all I needed. Dean returned 3 more times over the next month. Each visit was the same. Quiet conversations. No advice. No solutions. Just presence. And somehow, that was everything. On his last visit, Michael was weak, barely able to speak, but his eyes were calm. Dean? Michael whispered. Yeah? Thank you. You taught me something. What's that? That being scared doesn't. They making me weak. It makes me human. Dean's eyes filled. Yeah, kid. That's exactly right. Michael smiled faintly. I'm ready now. Dean nodded. I know you are. They sat together without words. When Dean left, he hugged Cindy. Take care of him, she nodded, unable to speak. Dean sat in his car afterward and cried. For Mikael. For Sammy. For his son. For everyone he'd lost and everyone he still would. Michael Landon died on July 1st, 1991, surrounded by family, as peaceful as anyone can be. When Cindy called Dean, he listened quietly, thanked her, hung up, poured a drink, and raised it in silence to those who had gone and those still waiting. Years later, Cindy said Dean gave Michael something no one else could. Permission. Permission to be scared. Permission to be honest. Permission to let go without pretending to be brave. And that, she said, was the greatest gift they received.